What if I told you that one night in California, a young woman entered a hospital emergency room, and within minutes, doctors and nurses treating her began collapsing one after another. Some convulsed, some couldn't breathe, others woke up hours later, confused and shaken, with no idea what had just happened. This isn't science fiction. This is the terrifying, true story of Gloria Ramirez, better known as the Toxic Woman, a medical mystery that remains unsolved to this day. It was the evening of February 19th, 1994, at Riverside General Hospital in California. Paramedics rushed in Gloria Ramirez, a 31-year-old mother of two. She was battling the late stages of cervical cancer, but something was suddenly, fatally wrong. She was disoriented, gasping for air, her blood pressure dangerously low. Doctors and nurses immediately began working to stabilize her. They administered sedatives, painkillers, and prepared for defibrillation. But almost immediately, they noticed something strange. Gloria's body gave off an oily sheen, as if her skin was coated with grease. A faint, garlic-like odor lingered in the air. One nurse leaning in to adjust her oxygen mask said it almost made her gag. And then her blood. When a syringe drew a sample, staff recoiled. The blood had a strong ammonia smell, sharp and unnatural. Inside the vial, floating particles shimmered, tiny, manila-colored crystals that no one could explain. The room grew tense. Something about this patient wasn't just unusual. It was frightening. Moments later, chaos erupted. The nurse who had drawn Gloria's blood suddenly collapsed to the floor, unconscious. A doctor examining her began to sway and complained of dizziness before passing out. Another nurse started to convulse, her body jerking violently before she fell. Within minutes, the emergency room turned into a disaster zone. Staff stumbled out of the trauma bay gasping for air. Some vomited, others fainted mid-step. In total, 23 people fell ill that night and 5 were hospitalized, including one nurse who spent weeks in intensive care. She experienced muscle spasms, inflamed lungs, and even necrosis, damage to her bone marrow. Imagine that. Highly trained medical professionals, people who spent their lives in emergency rooms, were dropping like flies simply for being near one patient. Through all this chaos, Gloria Ramirez's condition deteriorated. Despite frantic efforts to save her, she went into cardiac arrest. At 8:50 p.m., just 35 minutes after arriving, Gloria Ramirez was pronounced dead. But her story was only just beginning. After the incident, investigators faced one chilling question. What made Gloria Ramirez toxic? Theories soon emerged, each one stranger than the last. Mass hysteria. Some suggested the collapse of the ER staff was psychological, a case of mass psychogenic illness. One nurse fainted, others panicked, and the stress triggered physical reactions. Hospitals are high-pressure environments. Fear can spread like a virus. But this explanation didn't satisfy everyone. Could mass hysteria really explain severe physical injuries, damaged bone marrow, months-long health problems, and staff who nearly died? Dimethyl sulfoxide, DMSO theory. Gloria was known to use dimethyl sulfoxide, a solvent available as a topical pain reliever, as a home remedy for her cancer symptoms. DMSO has a greasy texture and smells faintly like garlic, just as the staff described. Some scientists theorize that under oxygen therapy, the DMSO in her body may have transformed into dimethyl sulfate, a compound so poisonous it can paralyze lungs and cause organ failure. If this theory is correct, Gloria's body effectively turned into a chemical factory, releasing toxic fumes powerful enough to sicken everyone around her. Hospital contamination or cover-up. Others believe the real explanation lay not in Gloria, but in the hospital itself. Could a hazardous chemical spill or improper storage of drugs have exposed staff, with Gloria becoming the scapegoat? Riverside General had its share of critics, and some whispered of a cover-up, that the hospital wanted to avoid lawsuits, so the blame was shifted onto the patient. Radiation, government experiments, and conspiracies. Conspiracy theorists suggested darker possibilities, that Gloria had been part of a secret experiment or exposed to radiation treatments not publicly acknowledged. Some claim the government intervened quietly after her death, ensuring the truth would never surface. Despite autopsies, toxicology reports, and multiple scientific investigations, no theory has ever been universally accepted. The incident left deep scars. Many staff members never returned to work. Some lived with lasting health problems. Others suffered from anxiety and trauma, haunted by the memory of collapsing next to their colleagues. Gloria Ramirez's body was handled under extreme caution, stored in an airtight coffin, and buried weeks later. She became known worldwide as the Toxic Woman. But to her family, Gloria wasn't a mystery. She was a daughter, a sister, a mother of 2 young children. They were devastated by how her story was sensationalized, reduced to a medical riddle rather than a human tragedy. The Riverside incident sparked debates in medical circles for years. Entire conferences were dedicated to her case. Scientists published papers. Journalists wrote books. TV specials called it one of the strangest medical mysteries in modern history. And still, no one can explain it with absolute certainty. So what really happened that night? Was Gloria Ramirez the victim of a bizarre chemical reaction inside her body? Did the hospital mishandle hazardous materials? Or was it simply fear, a mass hysteria event unlike any seen before? Whatever the truth, the fact remains, 23 trained medical professionals were affected, and a young woman's life ended in the middle of a medical nightmare that no one saw coming. To this day, her case is taught in medical mystery discussions and remains unsolved. Gloria Ramirez entered Riverside General Hospital fighting for her life, but what she left behind was one of medicine's most disturbing and unexplained mysteries. A night when even her blood seemed to turn against those who tried to save her. This is the story of Gloria Ramirez, the woman history will always remember as the Toxic Lady.